Good morning and welcome to Platos Cave of WCCR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio, Revolution.radio, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you like. Home to ideas, and that's really important. We're going to talk about that. Ideas are very important. Uncensored for the most part. We're going to talk about that too. Something very disappointing has transpired. And more importantly, the station is not supported by any kind of organization or individual except for you, the listener. So if you can donate, please do. It does help. Like I always say, it keeps those electrons bouncing around the copper, because that's what you want, popping in and out of existence. Pop, 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 collapsing all kinds of
quantum
curves. That's what happens. So go ahead and do that if you can. Any kind of cash is good. Crypto also, anything. Crypto is nuts, isn't it? Anyway, we'll talk about that as well. But maybe you can't. You can't spend money because you can't pay for rent. Maybe you no longer have a place to live in. That's okay. I mean, that's what we're here for, to really give you an hour's worth of reprieve where you can just think about something else. Tell people about the station. Just have a chat. One of those can donate, I'm sure. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, and onto your smart device. On the line all the time. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace Table of Digital Radio. Today is Tuesday, the 26th of March, 2024. A completely arbitrary date, which means nothing to anyone anywhere, apart from some countries on this planet. See, this is not even a universal date for this planet, It really isn't. So I love how we keep time. It's just our little thing. I'll do it. I'll keep the time. Hurrah! Archives are free. Another good reason to donate and tell people about the station if you can. Thank you so much. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it's the Bunjalung.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, of course, the Rock people in very hot Pemulwuy today.
Oh.
And very. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Thank you very much. I actually managed to go for a lunchtime walk for a couple of hours. It's pretty good. I try to do it every day, but it's tough. Tough all over. No, like a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. Most concerningly, or maybe not most concerningly, most surprisingly, let's call it. Most surprisingly, the U.S. has abstained from
voting.
So normally what happens if a resolution makes it up to the Security Council of the UN, the US vetoes it. Mm-hmm. That's what happens normally. This is the first time ever that the US has not vetoed. So this is going to be passed. But look,
I thought abstaining was good. So I tell my children.
No, abstaining. Well, it is good. So because the thing is this: the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, if they veto something, that's it. That's it for whatever it is. That's not done. Thank you very much.
It. Next.
Funnily enough, though, and you have to remember that the UN, not the NATO, but the UN, same kind of thing, right? No, not really. But the UN is now almost 80 years old, almost. And it reflects the world as it was after World War II. You see, that's
the League of Nations did nothing.
League of Nations did nothing. That's right. Those goggles, the goggles of League of Nations does nothing. My eyes, my beautiful eyes. And France. You look at the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, and these are the guys that are always there. There's another 10 that rotate in and out. Representing each region of the planet. The 5 regions, 2 members each. Anyway, point is, there are these 5 members. So the 5 members are, it used to be the Soviet Union. It's now Russia. But this is the thing, though, right? Because the Soviet Union was made up of all these other countries as well. Okay, it wasn't just Russia.
And now it's not.
Ukraine was there. Russia.
Stands.
All the stands. That's exactly right. Thanks. So they were also, but anyway, okay, so Russia. Okay, Russia, there it is. Russia, the United States, China, France, and Great Britain. France and Great Britain. I mean, really? Not the biggest economies, not the most powerful military nations. You ask yourself, I mean, look, I get Russia, I get the United States, right? I get China, of course, absolutely. France and Great Britain. This is such a throwback to the 1940s and 50s. It's not even funny.
Old empire.
But that's where we are. But look, it was really the first time that the U.S. didn't. Now they didn't vote for it, but by abstaining, they let it pass. That's that is. But see, the thing is this as well. The Israelis.
Have you told the people what the thing was? The bill.
Sorry, the what? Sorry, I don't know if I have. This was an immediate cessation of all hostilities, at least for the month of Ramadan, as well as release of all hostages. So immediate ceasefire. Cool. That's what it was. Yeah. Oh, which is of course not going to happen. No. We are now at over 33,000 people killed
in Gaza.
In Gaza. This is on the Palestinian side. Those are the victims on the. Oh well, yeah, the victims, I guess. I have no idea how many Israeli soldiers were killed up till now. Well, I'm sure there wouldn't be few.
It wouldn't be zero.
Imagine. Yeah. But 33,000. I fear that we may get to my predicted number of 100,000 minimum. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, it's good. But Netanyahu and his cronies, and the thing is, Netanyahu had a choice here. Netanyahu could either go and accommodate Israel's strongest and the longest standing ally, the US. By the way, all the bombs that are all the rockets or whatever they have there, all the bombs, all the rockets, they're all coming from the US that Israel is using. All of them. Every last one. If the US decided to stop sending them bombs and rockets, the war would be over. That's just, at the same time, they're also dropping in food aid for the Palestinians. It's just schizophrenic. It's completely psychotic. I don't know what's going on there. It's just nuts. But so Netanyahu had a choice here: go with our longest-standing ally. Didn't do that. In fact, told the U.S., "I'm not going to listen to you. Who are you? I don't. You don't even have an onion in your belt. I'm not going to talk to you."
Or you can take this meat cleaver here and chop off your little finger.
That's what happens. Or he makes sure of his own political survival, which is what he did.
That's right.
Because the people that he needs to form a viable government in Israel are, unfortunately, by other Israelis. Other Israelis call these guys terrorists. Now they're part of Netanyahu's cabinet, and the minister for there are two ministers, and I'm so sorry I can't remember their names or what they're ministers for, but they're so far right. They make Hitler look like a rainbow farting pink or greeny comic. Okay, that's how far right they are. No, I kid you not. I kid you not. These guys are extreme right wing in Israel. Extreme right wing. There's no coming back from that. So he appeased them by ignoring the U.S. So that's for me that was a big piece of news. I'll be honest with you. That was astounding. Now for Donald Trump though, you heard about this, Dave. He he had a good news day, I think. He now only has to pay a much smaller amount of bond or bail or whatever it is, much smaller, because he couldn't afford the 400 million. What kind of billionaire is he? If they had remained, or if they had retained that original sum, then he would have probably had to sell some of his properties.
It's all tied up in assets, Becky. That's
the problem. But you can't raise that kind of money real quick, and no. You know this. Property takes forever, right?
Yeah.
But the funny thing is this. Well, funny, I don't know. The interesting thing is this. The case is against him. Right? This is a federal case of fraud. I think it was brought in New York. To do with tax evasion and whatnot, or overstating something. It doesn't really matter. The point is, that case will be done by the time the elections come around this year. That case will be done. And we will then know if Donald Trump is a felon.
Yep.
Now, again, though, Dave, I find this so amusing. I'm so sorry. The land of the free. While a felon may not vote in a federal election. Did you know that? A felon may not vote in a federal election. A felon may not hold a job in a federal institution.
Mm-hmm.
But a felon may run for office.
Nice.
No problem. A felon may even run from office, and this has happened. We spoke about this. From prison. From prison. Now,
done the crime, done the time. Repent. You know what I mean?
No. He could be president.
Yeah.
In prison.
That's right.
Thing. And if he's convicted on state charges, okay, this is important. He can't pardon himself. Federal charges he can. State charges he cannot. So this like, remember when, this is years ago now, Dave, remember we spoke about this. We said, guys, you vote for Hillary or whoever it was, you know exactly what you're going to get. 100%. Mm-hmm. And we, fair enough. But with Donald Trump, and we said this, you can go back to the shows and listen to it.
That's right.
You'll have no idea. It'll be completely open book, right? You have no idea. They're going to, in fact, they're going to throw the book away. You're going to have to start a new book with him. And hey, I mean, all the things that have happened and the things that are going on now are so unprecedented that people will study this period of history and they'll scratch their head. They go, what on earth went on? It's just completely unbelievable. All right? It'll be up there with the with Nero burning Rome and and I guess the Spartans holding off the entire Persian army at I think it was Thermopylae. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just, Dave. It is completely unprecedented.
It's bonkers, man.
It has never happened like this. I mean, wow. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, that's so. Look, I think that was a bit of a good news day for him, and I think, look, you know how I feel about billionaires. Okay, I don't have to repeat it, but you don't want to see someone get beat down all the time, especially when his opponent deserves a good beat down themselves. All right. I mean, Biden, really? I mean, I saw some beautiful memes recently, Dave.
I know.
Biden. There's some gold ones out there. It's really quite something, I tell you. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? It is complete insanity. It is. Everybody's calling for conscription in Europe. The French are getting ready for a rumble, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's certainly some other people that are beating the war drum. And it's just.
It is. It's quite a crazy time in history.
Well, what went wrong? Look, something went wrong at some point there. Okay, I'm sorry, but that's what happened. Something went wrong. And I just don't know what, Dave. What? What's going on here, brother? It's just nuts.
Yeah, it is totally. I would just want to bring everyone's attention to what, if you probably already have heard or haven't heard, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore collapsed after a cargo ship hit one of the pylons. And there was 20 workers on the bridge itself, and it's down. It's gone now. And it's very strange. That ship was registered to Singapore, but ships can be registered to any country. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. For instance, the Houthis in Yemen firing missiles at ships misidentified a ship that was previously registered in the UK, but it was actually a Chinese ship, but because you can register ships anywhere, right? And the Houthis have apparently now declared that, or information has come out, that Russian and Chinese ships are have an agreement, let's say a soft agreement, to not be hit by the Houthis. Isn't that crazy? Everybody
Really?
else's ships. Yeah, totally. It's all today. This is all today. Crazy news.
Well, color me not surprised.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. And it really did shock me that, is it even possible? I'm not saying is it true. I'm saying, is it possible? It's a good question. Is it possible that this ship hitting the bridge could have been intentional to stop the shipping out of this port? The only reason I ask that, don't answer it, it's rhetorical, but the ship stopped under the bridge on the way in for apparently an inordinate amount of time. Like it came to a dead stop under it on the way into the port. You know, I don't know what they were doing. It just kind of adds up to the weirdness. This high strangeness period in time that we're in. Here's another really weird fact, Meki. This is a weird one. That the National Guard has been asked to represent during the next eclipse.
What does that mean? You mean come out in the street, or?
Yeah, come out and work. So they're going to be present in uniform, fully armed, ready for, well, I don't know what they're ready for. No one knows. And this is where all the questions. At no time in the past has there ever been National Guard requested to work on one of these eclipses. So there's a total eclipse going across the US, and it's rather a good one if you're in the path.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. And the emergency systems and everything is all getting into place. People have been asked to withdraw their children for the day from school. Just don't send them to school. Keep them at home. The other thing was people have been asked to prepare. Like there's a hurricane coming. Stock up on food and water. It's like, it's only an eclipse, people. Yeah? What is gonna happen? So all these questions are coming out, which is just making all the conspiracy minded. It's making their hair stand up on the back of their neck.
Yeah, like, of course.
Hang on a minute. None of this makes a lick of sense. You know, I thought the only thing that you would be told is ensure if you're going to look at the moon and the sun, right, and the eclipse, you're going to look at that, make sure you're wearing the glasses. Make sure you're wearing approved ones that you still be able to see when the thing's done. Because that'll happen. You can be blinded by it, right? So don't do that. So all these really weird things, and there's a whole bunch of people talking about what it might be. Now, I'm not going to say what it might be. I'm only going to say the things we actually know. That's why I raised the question about the ship. We do know that. There was also a ship. I was looking for this today, and I found there was a ship in the Caribbean where the two staff in the engine room were killed. Sadly, they lost their life because of an accidental release of that high pressure super steam that they have. And but that's a cruise ship, right? And it's nothing to do with anything that I'm talking about. I'm looking at how crazy the shipping world is right now. I can't understand how we've let it continue to where it is. How can it not be controllable? What is it, just a pirates free for all? Arr, arr. Yeah, it is actually. And we know that they use that dirty oil So once you have a cargo ship, you only use the nice clean oil when you're in port, and when you leave the sovereign waters of that country, you'll switch over to that dirty, cheap oil because it's all about money. They don't care. The operators of the ship, it's like the car park I used to park in. They had the attendant turn the fluorescent globes so that they wouldn't light every second one, just to save some power. Profit, Mackie. Profit.
Well,
it's all about profit.
That's what's gone wrong with our civilization, unfortunately.
We've gone profit
in the Western.
mad.
It's the only thing that matters. It is not the most important thing. It is the only thing, and there's a big difference in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a thing that mattered, one of the important things, right? That's important. Now it is the only thing that matters. Everything else is completely irrelevant. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing. That's why the world is slowly marching. Slowly. Actually, it's rampaging down. It's funny.
Rampaging Roy Slaven.
It's insane.
So the ship that hit the pylon in Baltimore, and the bridge is 1.6 miles long, right? So it's
a long
nearly
bridge.
3 kilometers of bridge. And engineers around the world are already saying, and in Australia for that matter, are going, that should never have happened. I just watched the footage a number of times leading up to the show start, and I noticed that the ship turns its lights off before it hits. What? It's 1:30 a.m. when it hits it. Yeah, so because we don't need lights. Oh, there's a bridge. I know it's illuminated. I can see it's illuminated. I don't need my lights on. Right? Why? I mean, you had them on, then you turn them off, then you hit the bridge. I think you might have needed them on. The other thing that's really interesting here of note, Becky, if you know anything about shipping, they don't allow the captain of the ship to negotiate any complexity in your local waterways. They just don't. It's a thing. They have what's called a pilot. So the pilot will board the vessel, steer it out the proper path, because they have a local knowledge of sandbars and speed limits and where everything is. It's because waterways can be very complicated. So the pilot does it and then hops off and then goes and joins another ship to then lead them out the correct path.
That's right.
He's the operator of the ship. Everything the ship does is in his control. The same as going through the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, even into Sydney Harbour, which is pretty big. You'd really have a hard time stuffing that up, but they don't. They don't trust anyone to do it. You actually have you meet up with a pilot, they come on board, they take over the ship and they bring it in. So I'm really curious here as how the pilot could have not known where they were going. And I guess it's all going to come out, in the days and weeks and months to come. I was listening, Mickey, because I caught this happening almost live, right, hours ago. And I started listening to my scanner app. I've got a scanner app, and I could hear the Baltimore Dispatch talking to all emergency services, looking for the people. Luckily, all the heavy vehicles in the video you can see have left the bridge. All the light vehicles have left the bridge. There's only about 20 or so workers doing traffic control, maybe doing some lane markings or something, or repairs or whatever it is. So there's at least 20 people there. There were some cars that went in at either end that weren't in shot for the collapse, but it's such a tragedy that I'm just blown away. I'm blown away by the simplicity of how the bridge entirely collapsed. I
didn't actually see it. So are you saying the entire bridge is gone? All of it?
Yeah, not just the little bit. I have sent you a video, I believe.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, I have, and here's
That
the
kind of
better version
structural.
of it.
So normally bridges that long they're segmented. Okay.
Yeah, this was segmented
So and it is segmented because, well, the reason for
for this
segmentation
reason.
is to prevent complete structural collapse. I mean, if there's only one arc, that
I know.
supports the bridge, then okay, fair enough. But at 1.6 miles, 3 kilometers, you expect it's like one of those Florida Key bridges, isn't it? That just stretches
Yeah,
on.
but it isn't. This is a steel girder bridge,
Right,
and
right.
and where it's failed in the from one pylon across to the two next ones, it's actually caused their cantilever weight to be removed, and then they've failed on their own. Okay,
I
so
know this. I know this is not going to help anyone, but I'm going to say here that kind of collapse is actually impossible. I have to look at the mechanics of the bridge. I have to actually see it.
mhm.
I haven't yet, but from what I'm hearing, what's been described, that kind of structural failure is impossible unless you want it to happen.
So it's called a box girder bridge, Mickey,
Yeah.
right? And the exact right point to make the entire thing fail was the exact point. It's the black swan of bridge collapses. So not even the lead up parts of the roadway survived.
Is it because the ship hit it?
Yeah, the ships definitely hit the structural main support to the highest point of the bridge on one of its sides because it's got
Now,
2 points. So it's
again,
hit one, and
yeah.
and as that collapsed, it relieved the weight balance to the next remaining pieces of those segments, and then each one of those failed. It's just extraordinary.
See, okay, I'm looking at it now. You can actually see that the parts of the bridge that are closest to the land haven't collapsed. And the reason they haven't collapsed is because that's actually how the structure is meant to work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the entire thing, but I tell you, it's it's not meant to do that. It's
No,
not meant to do that.
no,
The Twin Towers weren't meant to collapse the way they did.
that's the
All right?
truth.
Who
Yeah,
said
yeah.
that?
So our ABC did some coverage, and they already have comments from engineers in Australia going, that bridge should not have done that. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
I'm in good company then. Excellent.
oh yeah, no,
Because
you are, and I was surprised also from a box girder bridge thing, but I did engineering, right? Engineering science, so I can see when the next segment fails is when the cantilever weight, when that's relieved, that's when it fails. So
okay.
yeah, but look, there was no heavy vehicles on there. There was a couple of light vehicles and some workmen, and then there's the people on the boat as well, because it looks like they didn't go full speed into it, but just enough to make it fail. It's just awful, awful.
That's the thing with kinetic energy. If you've got enough mass behind you, and that's how a tsunami works. Forget about the height of the tsunami.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
not really relevant. It's just the water coming after it. And same with the boat, because this is not a small boat here. I'm
It's a
looking at it
cargo
now.
ship.
Yeah,
This is a big
exactly
bridge.
right. So
I was even debating whether it could get under it at high tide, because it was
God.
coming up to high tide, and it looks like, because in Sydney Harbour we've got some ships that can only go under the Sydney Harbour Bridge at low tide. There's some that are right on the border of being able to get under the bridge or not, and they have to do it at low tide.
Oh, I know why the lights go out on the boat. It's the
You
bridge
saw
hit
that?
it. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's because the
Yeah.
bridge hit it.
Yeah.
The electrical systems would have shut down as soon as because in any crash, any boat crash, the electrical systems usually shut down to prevent electrical fires. Anyway, but that collapse though, it's almost beautiful in a way. If you look at it, I mean, like if you wanted to hit it, it's not even hitting it. It's just clipping. Well, not clipping it, but it's certainly
It runs exactly into that pylon.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
but
where it should have been another, 50 meters to the left.
you've got to be a muppet to not see that, right?
Well, and the fact that they were under that bridge on the way in before it loaded up earlier in the week and stopped underneath the middle part. And you can easily see where the middle is on a bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And
you see that section off to the side, that should not have collapsed. The structure,
off to the right-hand side that we can see, yeah.
So if you look at the screen, the ship's on the left, hitting the left pylon. Then you get the right pylon. So you collapsed all that. Okay, I get it. But that's where it should have stopped. But the second point of failure here is actually further out, almost off screen.
No, but you can see, you see that piece, you see it start to rise up because there's no weight for the counterbalance.
Yes, that should not matter. I hear what you're saying, but that shouldn't matter because of the crisscross construction of the steel.
Oh yeah, and the box girded. I know.
Yeah, it should bear its own weight, but if you can see it, so the bridge collapses. Here it goes. I'm just looking at. Sorry, everybody. Okay, at this point, the other side, like a seesaw, like you said, the other side goes down. That shouldn't have happened. Something should have held the other side that went down. Shouldn't have gone down, but it went down. That should have held it up. So that doesn't make any sense from a structural point of view. But anyway, look, maybe we're going to see a whole bunch more stuff like this where things just happen, strange things, buildings, bridges. Did anybody get killed on the bridge?
There's 20 people that are...
workers. Was there anybody on the bridge driving?
And there were drivers on the other section we can't see.
Okay, so let's ask the question: who was on the bridge? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yep. And I was listening to reports saying that Dispatch had sent some people out to try and find these people who would come out of the water and were wrapped in towels or blankets. Because the water was only like 2-3 degrees or something Celsius.
Oh, of course.
And if you went into that water, you wouldn't be able to swim out. It's too cold. So...
No.
Yeah, just honestly, a terrible event. And while I can see what happened, I wonder... if any of it is intentional. That's my first question. I'm only wondering. I'm not saying it is. And the second thing is this only the beginning of what maybe we might see some more of this? I don't know. Because shipping right now, like the tobacco wars, Mekki, in Australia, where all these tobacconists are catching fire. They know that it's a gangland thing that they're talking about in Australia. There is what's called the tobacco war, and it's all the tobacconists whose stores are being broken into and set ablaze. And they don't know who's doing it. They just presume it's competitive. It's highly competitive, and maybe it's over vaping. I'm not sure. Maybe the people won't sell those illegal nicotine vapes now because it's all banned in Australia, by the way. So maybe there's something there. There might be cartels involved. No one knows.
So let's be very clear here. Ever since the price hikes in tobacco in Australia, because I saw this happening in Singapore, the mafia, the cigarette mafia, let's call them, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cigarettes being smuggled into the country.
Oh, yeah. Being
sold very cheaply. The Singaporeans have had this issue, this problem, not just Singapore itself, but other countries around it have had it for years and years. Because even though tobacco compared to Australia and Singapore is quite cheap, it's a lot cheaper if you smuggle it in. You don't have to pay any tax. It's super cheap.
And there's counterfeit cigarettes as well being sold.
Well,
that's a whole other market.
That's a whole other story. In fact, I can tell you about. Maybe you should do a story on counterfeits because I have a story that they were in China. They were making counterfeit eggs. I know it's
Yes.
crazy, but that
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
happened. And not only that, they were they were
Rice. I
spray
remember
painting
rice.
rice. Yeah, but in India they were spray painting vegetables to make them look better
I knew
for
that they were
sale.
spray painting pigs to be black because they're more
Mhm.
expensive, right?
Yeah, no, this is all kinds of veggies spray
That's
painted
crazy.
to
Yeah,
look
yeah.
more. It's completely insane.
I know that
Um,
there was fake rice. I remember seeing a story on fake
yeah.
rice.
And
And
why? Profit because of that.
yeah, that's right.
It is really that simple. Right?
So
We
money.
we all we went off the rails. Something fierce. Look, I can't really pinpoint it. I want to say probably a
2000.
couple of 100 years ago.
A
It really
hundred
went.
years ago. Oh, goodness. Goodness,
No, no, a couple
yes.
hundred, couple hundred,
Oh, well, that would be
couple 100 years ago.
industrialization, Mickey.
We yeah, we went badly off the rails. Always been greedy people. They have always been greedy people, and banks
Mm-hmm.
have been around for a while. But what we see today, I think, when America in the 18 or the mid 19th century, really, right, when they lost the banking wars, and I urge you all to read up on that, the banking wars of America. And when those were lost, that's when pretty much everything, went the way of bad news, because the banks gained supreme control. They controlled you. The bankers have controlled Europe for a long time. They have. Goes back centuries. The New World, America, was not controlled by the banks to the same extent, and they were very unhappy when America had its own currency. The banks
That's
weren't happy
right.
at all. So George, they go to King George at the time, King George. Um, they said, "Hey, buddy, look, what's going on here?" And essentially, what went on was the banks pressured George into action against the colonies, the nascent
The
colonies
New
who were
World,
going
yeah.
back, and essentially outlawing their money and levying more taxes. It had nothing to do with tea. It's not tea.
That's right. But what was the
The,
statement from the governor in the US who, what didn't he say? We're so prosperous that we don't owe any money.
the colonial script was not debt-based currency.
That's right.
So the colonial script was okay. Let me step back a second. They only had enough money for the economy to work. So the economy had a certain value, whatever it was, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how much money was in circulation. And then they only, I guess, made more if the economy grew, right? Now this is easy to do in a fairly small economy, of
A
course.
closed society. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but if you keep good management of it, you should be able to do it. No,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right though. They were prosperous because it was not debt-based currency; it was actual currency. It was gold-backed, number one. But secondly, there was not a lot of it in circulation. So the bank wars, just to let you all know, was actually a political struggle over over the issue of rechartering the second bank of the United States. Right, this was during the presidency of Andrew Jackson, and he was in there for 2 terms, 1829 to 1837. So mid 19th century, right? Like I said, and it was actually shut down. The federal bank was shut down, and then it was replaced by state banks. So these were banks that were, well, I guess, held by the people in many ways. Not by bankers per se. Okay. So it's very interesting. But as you all know, you now do have a Federal Reserve Bank, right? You should ask yourself, well, how did we get a Federal Reserve Bank if Andrew Jackson said no, we can't have one? Okay, so that's a whole other story again. It's really we went off the rails so badly that it is now I think, impossible to course correct.
So, two American presidents that were assassinated, they
Oh yeah,
they had put into place rebacking the currency with gold.
yeah.
And then shortly after their deaths, it was reversed again.
And no more gold standard. Of
We
course,
won't have that discussion. Yeah.
No, we won't. But it's again, we did have a whole show cycle around this. So look, it is not a good system, and it is not federal. It's a privately owned institution. Okay. So
That's right. So it's a private company who's in charge of the monetary for all of the countries that have had a war.
Yeah. Actually, Hamilton, who tried to bring it in 1791, he brought in the first Bank of the United States. And then, as you all know, the second bank didn't really go well.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like it, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Andrew Jackson. It's what he said was this: Jackson's argument rested on his belief that such a concentration of power in the hands of a few men, irresponsible to the people, was dangerous. So there were no measures in place to hold these men to account. Is essentially what he's saying.
That's right. Yeah.
And
haven't we wished that had always been in place?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was terrible. But yeah, look, it is what it is. And then the early 1900s led to the creation of the Federal Reserve System.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all over. It's all over, she wrote. And now we are where we are.
Yes.
We are where we are.
Oh, I feel comfortable, Mackie. I want the New World Order to start really quickly and get off this cash business, digital currency. The reason why I say this all in tongue-in-cheek is because Australia has just had the news this day tell us that 63% of all transactions in 4 years ago was cash. And this year, 12% of all transactions are cash. And Armaguard, who is one of those trucks that takes cash around with the two, armed personnel.
Oh yes, I saw the.
They're being bailed out by one of the banks because they still need them, but the company itself is teetering on collapse. Because there just isn't enough work anymore for them. And they can't keep running these things, and running the business into the ground. They need saving. And so you join that with the king not being represented on any of our currency because the currency won't last long enough in circulation for that to be important. And you start to see, you add all these messages together and you end up with this view that, hang on, I think they're pushing us to a digital-only currency as quickly as they can. They start that discussion with one of the country representatives in Parliament trying to use cash, and they wouldn't accept the cash inside Parliament. Like there's a shop if you wanted to buy a coffee or something, right?
Yeah.
So that starts that conversation. Now we get to the point where we're now being told so few people use cash. Oh, it's probably let's just do digital anyway, right? Let's get rid of the cash. No one's using it. The only people who want to keep using it are those who are in control of the cash, which are the banks.
Yeah.
They still want to be able to move it around because they go, oh, what kind of world would it be if people don't feel safe carrying cash around? I don't think we've been in that world since the 1800s. And even then it was dodgy. Stand and deliver, Mackie.
I'll be honest with you. I would prefer dealing in cash. I mean, I like the convenience of the card, but it's also much too easy to spend money, in my
And
opinion.
if we had an
Whereas,
EMP or some kind of large no more electrical event happen, where's all the money? You haven't got nothing. There's no more
oh,
civilization after that point.
yeah. Well, there is.
So if
but
all the
it's
times
very different.
there is. I'm going to turn Amish, Mickey. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Look, this is the funny thing. We laugh at the Amish.
Uh-huh.
If there were an EMP, the Amish wouldn't even know.
They'd stop
wouldn't
getting
even know.
visitors.
Yeah. Oh, those funny English. Where is the funny English? They used to come all the time. Not anymore, they don't. The Amish would just go on. And
That's right.
there's something reassuring and there's something beautiful in a way as well. The same with what we like to call the primitive people of the world.
Mm-hmm.
All the people that still know how to live off the land. People that are farming without machinery.
Those chemtrails
things
go
like that.
away.
Yeah,
Where
that's right.
are those big metal birds? They've stopped.
Yeah, well, quick, let's build some runways to come back. But some people would be completely untouched by and in fact, the Amish just aren't part of the system.
That's right.
And that's that's one thing I do admire about America. I really do. This is the ability for, I guess, what you would call fringe groups. Let's call them fringe groups, to be able to exist and do their own thing.
Yeah, I do like
the
that
Amish,
too.
the Mennonites. There are a few others there as well.
Oh.
And there are different kinds of people living similar lifestyles. I think the Amish are not using anything after 1800 something or other. Whatever was invented after that particular year,
Yep.
they don't use. So no zippers for the Amish, only buttons.
That's correct.
And of course, no heavy machinery, internet and whatnot. It's just not going to happen. But you know what? I'll be honest with you, Dave. You know when I feel really, I dare say happy. Let's call it happy.
Okay.
After a day of hard physical labor, like for example, I use only hand tools to do my yard work. Right? I mean, I have a petrol lawnmower. Yes, I do. Right. Not electric, but all my edging is done with a hand edger.
Nice.
I've got a shears. So all digging, whatever. So I do it all manually, and I do my neighbor's front as well. So the whole thing can take me. If I do the trees, the whole thing can take me 3 or 4 hours on a weekend, right? And it's hard physical work as well. But once I come in and then have a shower and sit down, I feel really good, Dave.
I know.
I feel really good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's something in the movie. It's with Jim Carrey. When he plays the guy who plays God, Bruce Almighty.
Bruce
Almighty.
I love that movie.
Morgan Freeman. Yeah, Morgan Freeman plays God, right?
Yes.
And
who else?
And Morgan Freeman. Well, of course.
and
and he says a very true thing. At least it rang true with me. He said, "Some of the happiest people in the world stink to high heaven when they go home at night."
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, the hard labor, sweat, and maybe you work in dirty environments or whatever the case. And I completely agree. When I was young, I used to mow lawns. I worked on building sites as well, but mowing lawns I remember because this one time was just the lawn was huge and it was just up to my chin, the grass, and it took me hours to do it. But afterwards, number one, you've accomplished something.
That's
number
right.
one. Number two, it's this all over happiness you feel. I know it's the endorphins rushing through you. I get it, right? But it's true. It's a true
that's
thing.
Not a fake happiness. That's still happy.
Oh, it is happy. Yeah, absolutely. And it is. Our society has largely lost that. We look. I'm not advocating everybody should do hard labor, but I do think everybody should go out there and do some hard labor. And I'm not talking about going to the gym. That's different. I'm not talking about going for a jog. That's different. I'm talking about doing some hard manual labor once in a while. It connects you back to, well, everything. And believe me when I tell you, you're going to feel great. You will feel great. And I think we've forgotten that. I mean, look at the way you and I live, Dave. I mean,
I know.
Not just us, but I take us as examples because we are common. Our job is sitting.
That's right.
We sit in front of several screens. In my case, several screens. In your case, I'm sure. Right. And even when I'm mobile, take my kids to school, picking them up from school, take them to their classes, I have my mobile phone, which makes me available. Many is a time when I take a conference call in my car and my kids listening, and my daughter asked me something funny the other day. I can't remember, but it had to do with my conference call. Something about why can't I just do this?
She had a solution to it. That's right.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a funny. Sorry, but it was a funny thing. So they're listening and they're catching some of it, but but you're never really not at work.
That's right.
In our scenario, totally. I could go to the office and it'll be the same. Makes no difference if I'm at home or in the office. It's a lot of us in a white collar job. We work like that, right? It's just the nature of the beast. Blue collar is still somewhat different, and gray collar, you get all the different colors in between. But a lot of white collar workers, and a lot of people are white collar workers in our urbanized environments. It's just how it is. We just live bad lives. From a physical point of view, we live very bad lives.
We're built to do that hard slog.
Yeah.
And yet,
absolutely,
our society doesn't have us all doing it. This is a bit facetious, but I think P. Diddy, I think is whoever it is going to be doing some hard labor. He's like
I saw
a mini Epstein. With the tapes and the things and the girls, and who knows? We'll have to see how that pans out.
Yeah, I might.
Allegedly, of course.
Allegedly. Well, look, allegedly. I want to just do a quick shout out to the chat room because we haven't today. Comet and Levin, the streams. Thank you so much for and Flea as well, of course. Flea, but Comet and Dave Ski's there. That's cool. But you're correct. So this is what Comet said. When you look at all these wars, one thing they have in common is the bankers always win. In the end, they do, my friend. In the end, they do, because they just have deeper pockets, and that's the only thing that counts these days. They have convinced everybody that carrying around debt notes is a good idea. We should all have debt notes in our possession, because that's all these. Our cash is not currency per se. These are just debt notices. But yeah. It's
banks fund both sides.
Yeah, that too. The Rothschilds, in fact, had an advantage. I think this was during the Napoleonic Wars. They had messengers come to them first, telling them of the outcome of I think it might have been Waterloo, if I'm not wrong, and they made financial maneuvers to take advantage of that particular loss. They never lose. And like I said, they didn't make it to Forbes' list of billionaires, the Rothschilds. What a crock.
That's right. It's the people you don't count, Mackie, really.
It's the people, that's 100% correct. It's the people that are actually in charge, that I call the actual parasites. Now, they're all parasitic. You don't even know who they are. You know about the Rothschilds, which means they're not the actual ones.
That's right.
Right? There are others.
And Mackie and I have done a show on this dynastical family trees, right? Where there could even be people who live forever, being serviced by servants that you never know who they are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're talking practical immortality. Oh, jeez, that was good.
Yeah.
But do come and visit us on a Shiny Side Up. We're going to be back here on Thursday. That's right. So it's Shrove Thursday if you're Catholic, Ash Wednesday followed by Shrove Thursday followed by Good Friday, Easter Saturday, Easter Sunday, Easter Monday. In the Philippines, they actually celebrate Shrove Thursday. It's a public holiday.
I thought it was Shrove Tuesday, but what do I know?
Yeah, no, it's definitely Shrove Thursday, and which is just before Good Friday and after Ash Wednesday. Anyway, but maybe I'm wrong. Happy to be corrected.
I don't know.
Maybe my people are claiming the wrong holidays. No, it's all good. But yeah, so Easter is around the corner. We will be around for that. There'll be a show on Easter Sunday. There'll be a show on Tuesday, just after Easter, of course. And next time will be Thursday. So this has been Plato's Cave. Thank you so much for sharing your morning with us, or evening, or afternoon. Be safe and be kind.